When we talk about tech transfer, we need to see on how to manage it. We need to know what's happening and we need to understand how the technology transfer from a donor company to a receiving company actually works. So at Verhaagd, we created our technology tech transfer canvas. This is a canvas that basically explains the entire process. You could compare it with a well-known business model canvas. In the tech transfer canvas, there are a couple of sections, and throughout these videos, we'll take you through all the sections of the canvas so you'll understand the entire process of tech transfer a lot better. So here's our technology transfer canvas. As you see, it resembles a lot to the business model canvas, but the content of the blocks is a bit different. On the total left side, you have the donor company. That's the company who owns the IP, who developed technology. In the case of the ESA technology transfer program, that technology is developed for space applications. Then in the middle, you have the receiving company. That's a company that would like to use that technology or the know-how developed in their own products and to create a new value proposition. And then that value proposition is offered to customers on the total right side, to customers that are in an end market. Basically, that's the technology transfer flow. You start with the donor company, they transfer the technology or the IP to the receiving company, they integrate it in their business model and offer it as a value proposition to the end customers. That's the value flow. So the technology flow goes from left to right, donor, receiver, end customer, and then the end customer in its turn pays the receiving company with money or whatever to reward the company for the value proposition. And a very important thing, the receiving company also gives something back to the donor company in its turn for the technology or the IP they could use. That's basically the technology transfer flow. Let's look at all the blocks one by one. To start with the donor company. The donor company is in most cases a very tech-driven company. They developed technology for space programs in the end. So it's a high engineering, a top engineering company that comes up with very new state-of-the-art and cool technology, and they design it for space applications. Now, the thing in space is that you need very solid technology. It's simply not so easy to send up an engineer to screw something back tied together. So you need reliable technology that's also lightweight because you need to launch it in a rocket. There's a lot of requirements that are very specific for space applications. So the IP and the technology that's developed is often state of the art, and the point of tech transfer is to see, can we use those developments and transfer them to another market? So the technology developed is somehow ownership of the developing company. The question is, how do they prove the ownership? And that's the entire discussion on intellectual property rights, IPR. The most well-known fact there is patenting. A patent is basically a paper that says you're the owner of this idea, of this technology, of this invention, and the coming 20 years you can do whatever you want with it and nobody else can use it. So sometimes technology or ideas are patented. In a lot of other cases, there's no patent. Sometimes it really doesn't make sense to go for patenting. If you have a business cycle of 6 months, it doesn't make sense to try to have a 20-year protection scheme that costs you a lot of money. So sometimes speed to market or trade secrets are other examples of protecting your IP. The question is, you have the technology, how is it protected, and what is possible to transfer that IP or the technology to a receiving company. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. Let's look at the donor company in our technology transfer canvas. The donor company is a company that developed technology for a space program and they own that development. So basically they own the technology or they own the knowledge. It can be protected by patents, by trade secrets, by speed to market, can be protected by a lot of things. But the case is that the company somehow decides or might decide that they could also apply that technology or deploy that technology in non-space segments. So the question in technology transfer is, first, what is the technology? How does the technology look? And what are the very unique features in that technology? because it's in those features that the real value in your final business proposition to end customers will be. It's in the very unique things. What does this technology do different compared to other alternatives in the market? So, first step is in defining the technology value that can be offered by the donor company. So let's look at the receiving company in the technology transfer canvas. That's the company that's really in the middle of the entire canvas. It's a company that's active in a non-space market. So basically, they sell products to non-space users. And they have the idea to innovate, so they want to create a new value proposition. To make that value proposition a real thing, they still need some technology, and that technology could maybe solved or developed with the use of space knowledge or space technology. So that's basically the setup. You have a company that wants to innovate and to create a new business model, and maybe they can use space technology. An important thing there is that they really understand the gaps they have in their business proposition or in the technological part of their value proposition. So the receiving company should try to come up with a very clear question on these are the technological features we struggle with at the moment, and maybe these features could be solved by space technology. One of the biggest challenges in technology transfer is to link up the needs of the receiving companies with the features that a donor company can offer. So brokerage is basically finding that link, finding a very specific donor company that has well described features, and then on the other hand, having a nice view of a range of receiving companies with needs, and then see if we could make a match. It's basically a two-piece puzzle. You need to have one piece and the other piece, and they need to really match nicely to each other. That may sound easy, but it's not. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of time and a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions. And in most cases, the puzzles don't really fit perfectly well. So we need to kind of tweak and push and shift and try to figure out how to match two pieces together. And if we're able to make a nice match between the donor technology and the receiver needs, then from a technical point of view, we might have a feasible technology transfer process. Even if the technological features are okay and we're able to find a nice match between the technology of donor company and the needs of a receiving company, the race is not won yet. One of the big challenges is how to figure out how the receiving company rewards the donor company for making its technology and its know-how available. Basically, that's what covered in the IP transfer mechanism block. It's a very difficult name to say, okay, what will you pay for my technology? The entire process of figuring out how much a receiving company should pay is a very challenging one and difficult one. It takes time, and it's interesting that you have a good view and a good idea on the market size that could be targeted. So let's look at the right side of the technology transfer canvas. We have in the middle a receiving company that wants to build a new business proposition by adding space technology to its product. That product will be used to target a market of end users, and that market should be more than one single company. It should be able to target a broad market and generate a lot of profit and benefits for the receiving company. So it's really relevant to have a viable business model, to think of the end customer, to think of how big the market is, to think of how strong that market is growing, to assess the strength of the overall business proposition of the receiving company. If we don't do that, we risk ending up in just R&D projects or some development fund instead of transferring space technology to a broad market so that a lot of people can benefit from it. That's why we also add the right side in the technology canvas. And in essence, it's just a business model canvas thinking. It's a product and a customer need. And that match is very crucial in business. If you're not able to make that match, you will not be able to make money. And sorry, but if there's only one thing you need to do in business, it's making money. Saving the world comes second, but making money first. If you don't make money, you go bankrupt and it's game over. The top blocks of the technology transfer canvas we just explained. And then underneath there are two canvases. On the right side, the well-known business model canvas, which explains the story about a company and its customers and how that will interact and how that will work. On the left side, we created the donor value proposition canvas. And that's basically the story that explains how a donor company can benefit from engaging in the technology transfer program. Because if donor companies really don't see why they should do it and why they should deviate from their core market, it will not work in the end. We need to have some way of showing the value that a donor company can receive in engaging in the technology transfer program. So those two canvases, the business model canvas and the donor value proposition canvas, basically summarize the things that are on the top of the canvas. It's two communication means that summarize the entire story. And by creating those two canvases, we're able to engage with as well the donor company, the receiving company, and also with the end customers, and to explain everything in a very transparent and clear way so that everybody understands the process of technology transfer and everybody knows their role within that process. So the Verhaard Technology Transfer Canvas explains the entire story of donor company, receiving company, and the end customer, and the flow of technology transfer, how technology flows through it, and how rewardings flow through it. In the upcoming videos, we'll dive in even deeper. We'll take real cases and examples to explain the different blocks of the canvas and to show you in even more detail how the entire process works. If you're interested, let us know. Please engage in some discussion, and I'm looking forward to see you in the upcoming videos.